The program, which is going to be discussion of issues in the November 7th election. And Ryan, take it away.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me. This is Andy Arness. Andy is the city's communication and economic development officer. We're here to go over what we're asked to talk about, which is Proposition 1, which you see in front of you. We're going to cue up a video that Andy put together and show that. I just want to make it very clear that as a city employee, two city employees, we have no opinion about what people do with this. We were here just to talk about the facts. So if you have any factual questions that we can answer, I can start off by telling you that Proposition 1 is, we asked the county to look, we looked through our records. This is the first citizen initiative that we can find record for that actually made it on to the city ballot. I think there was one a few years ago that didn't actually make it on the ballot, but this is one that is actually printed on the ballot, which will be staying this evening. And with that, Andy will show the video, which depicts what you see in front of you.
On November 7th, City of Shelton voters will have the opportunity to change Shelton's form of government from the current 3-person commission to a 7-person council. In July, a citizen petition calling for a change to a council-manager form of government was submitted to the Mason County Elections Office, which authorized Proposition 1 to be placed on the ballot. If a majority votes yes, the city will replace its commission with a council-manager form of government. There are a few notable differences between council-manager and commission cities. In a council-manager city, the elected officials consist of a 7-member council exclusively responsible for policymaking. Every 2 years, the council appoints a member to serve as mayor. The mayor is the presiding officer at council meetings and ceremonial leader of the city. The mayor has no executive or administrative authority. The council also appoints a city manager who is responsible for city administration, including the daily operations of city government, personnel functions, and city budget preparation. The City of Shelton currently operates under a commission form of government. In a commission city, the officials typically consist of 3 commissioners elected to specific departments: public safety, public works, and finance. The Commissioner of Public Safety serves as mayor and is the presiding officer at commission meetings, but has no executive or administrative authority. In a traditional commission form of government, commissioners act collectively as the city's legislative body and individually as city department heads. In Shelton, the commission appoints a city manager to implement policy and manage the city's daily operations. There are 281 cities and towns in the state of Washington. Shelton is the last city in the state operating under a commission form of government. If Proposition 1 passes, the transition to a 7-person council will take place in early 2018. By default, the 3 sitting commissioners will keep their seats and become council members. The commission will then call for a special election to fill the 4 additional council seats. Once the 4 new council members have been elected, Shelton will officially become a council-manager city. Additional information on Proposition 1 can be found on the City of Shelton website. For more information regarding forms of government in Washington, contact the Municipal Research and Services Center.
You know how weird it is to go by somebody's desk for a few days and see them work on the cartoon?
I assume South Park did it.
Right? So what you saw there is essentially the script was what we sent out with utility bills a couple weeks ago, and that's just the basic information that we can provide as a city. Any factual questions? Again, no concern for pro or con, but if you have any factual questions, you can answer.
The money.
What part?
The money. The salaries are going to come at a different time that people have to put in on the job.
So I'm not sure if the time on the job changes. The salary, it's been discussed a few times in the press, and I think it's been discussed a couple times in our meetings as well. I think that all 3 commissioners acknowledge that there's likely a difference if there's 7 people versus 3. But in terms of what we've talked about when we're asked, we currently budget around $76,000 for 3 commissioner salaries, and the average for a city our size, city in our group, is 7,500 people to 15,000 people, is roughly about 42 or 43,000. So budget-wise, we wouldn't have a problem. The commissioners that stay on, should this pass, you can't change your own salary, plus or minus. So 2 salaries are set for the next 2 years, but that would be a decision that would be up to the commissioners before this gets set. One of the things we didn't have a lot of time, we were really trying to get 2 minutes because we didn't know how long people would pay attention to this cartoon. But one of the things that we didn't expand on as much here is that there are a lot of decisions that have to be made if this should pass, and those decisions would be made by the commission. So they would have to call for election. We would likely have a primary is one they want to meet in February, and then in general in April. And included in that would be restructuring a lot of the ordinances around how the commission works versus how the council would work. And and the salary is part of that. So in terms of us looking at a budget for next year, we don't have a concern out of the staff that we'd be able to handle that. We feel comfortable that we'd be able to handle that.
So can I recap?
Yeah.
There are 3 now, and each earns $76,000 a year.
No, total, the cap is $25,400 per salary.
I'm sorry?
$25,400 is the max.
Okay, so 25,400, and now that times 7 is what you're talking about?
No, well, they can choose whatever they like, but the average for a city our size is around $6,000, 7-person council. So if we were to go to a 7-person, it would be up to the commission whether or not they wanted to leave the salaries where they are, or would they get in line with what you see on average.
And what was the average in my hearing?
Around 6,000?
6,000, okay.
Does that include benefits?
No.
What is the standard for providing benefits? Because we provide health, dental, cell phone, I don't know what else, but is that common among small cities?
That information was not included in the database that AWC has. You see that in a couple of cities it's listed, but we couldn't determine whether or not it was listed in only the cities that have it or just the cities that recorded it. So on that one, I'm not sure what all the cities do.
Could you request that from MRSC?
AWC gave us the info. We can ask. We can certainly ask and see if they have the info.
If it's a 7-member, what would the expectation be for time in positions?
Well, there's not a requirement now other than the meetings, the commission meetings. There's no set work, there's no 40-hour work week that's mandatory. So it would be the same for, I don't know how the county's elected officials are, but they set their own schedules.
So I have 2 questions. So if you go to the MRSC website, will they have some kind of survey? I kind of missed part of that.
What
So
you
is
see
there
there
a
is-
survey that shows, well, these cities have done this 5-member council, X number of cities have 7 members, and so on.
Yeah, there's a more limited version of what you're asking. They have the types of government explained, and there's a chart that describes literally everything except for us because we're the only ones, so we usually get a paragraph. But they discuss the differences between a couple of the major forms of government, and then they do list some examples, and it gets into the weeds a little bit because they're code cities versus charter cities. But you'll see an expanded version of the differences that you saw in this video.
Okay, so that pretty much covered my second question. It
Okay.
had to do with the other 230 some odd cities, what they did.
And why are we the last?
Yeah, why are we the last
city
poll now?
to do a justice?
I have no clue. It's been 20 years since the last 2 cities moved away from it. Chelan and Raymond. I will say I was surprised that Raymond beat us on anything. But Chelan, I think it was Chelan, but I know Raymond in '99, we looked for records and we weren't able to reach out to many staff members in those cities because there just aren't a lot that are around since then. In talking with the folks there, one of the things that they mentioned is one of the issues that we had why the change was that we got to a point in the late 90s and certainly now where open public meetings are an issue. And to have 3 people, we all, the court has it, the county has it, we have it. It's difficult for our elected officials to talk because they can't do it unless it's a public meeting. And why we're the last one, I'm not sure.
Since some cities have a 5-member council and some have 7, can you tell us why the 7-member council was chosen?
Yeah, so we didn't choose it. If you're below a certain population, you can go down to 5, but we're nowhere near that. I think the cutoff is 7,500 and we're over 10,000.
I see.
So you have to go to 7-person, but if your population is low enough, you can go down to 5.
Gotcha, thank you.
At what point and by who will the decision be made about whether we have 7 at-large or wards and districts?
That would be a commission decision.
And that would be after the election?
If it were to pass, then we would bring forward a lot of decisions for them to make in the next 10 years.
So once the city of Shelton Commission makes that decision that Maryland is passed about, and then a new set of members come on, can they change that?
I think that their change of the structure,
Yes.
I will freely admit that we have only worked, because this isn't something that the city's pushing, we've only worked one step ahead, not trying to.
Forecast?
Not trying to forecast anything, so I don't know the answer yet. I know what happens in November. They count votes, and they tell us what the decision is, and then we'll move forward.
Have you done a survey or any polling on how the public feels about this?
We didn't, because this isn't something that the city commissioners put on the ballot until it was brought forward by the citizens. So we haven't done any polling on this because it was a citizen.
I apologize, I must have been doing something else. I don't know your role with the city.
I'm the city manager.
Ah,
No apology needed. So I assume that you don't want to yell at me if you don't know my name.
so you would continue on with the new structure as they were, that cartoon?
I guess we'll find out if that happens.
The way they did it, the same guy showed up in the cartoon.
That's probably just because I kept telling you to hurry up and get this thing out.
Purely coincidental.
I don't know if it applies to changing from at-large to district elected, but there is a requirement that a government has to be as it is for, I think it's 6 years before another change can be initiated.
We've heard something.
There's something, you can't just change it every time the commission changes or
Right.
council changes, so.
Any other factual questions?
So
we can
you're
answer?
saying that, how long after voters vote this in, if they do you put out for applications for people to, or people just run on their own and just
It'd be
decide? they're
pretty
gonna-
quick because in the petition language, there was, the dates were listed for the election. So the general, if you will, would be in April. And then if you have more than 2 for any of those 4 seats, you would have to run a primary in February. So I would expect that by the end of this year, that they're likely asking for people to sign up.
So it sounds like the league may have to have some forums to inform people what this is all about because it's so brand new officially.
It will be, there'll be a lot of work. We'll be asking for a lot of help should this go through. I know the commission, they obviously look for help with decisions they make, but if this were to go through, you're redoing the government for the first time since the 40s. When I didn't point that out, but mid-40s was when this commission formed a government and replaced itself.
So how would the responsibilities be changed? Right now, one commissioner's responsible for finance and one is responsible for public works. Did that get totally revamped? I presume.
If we ran a pure commission form of government, it would change. And I'm not sure at what point the city hired a manager or administrator, but once that hire was made, I know at least Mike McCarty was around, so it's been 30 years, that we've operated similarly to how we do now. And right now, the commissioners are elected for those 3 positions, but there is a city manager, there's also a department director over those departments. So they're not involved with the day-to-day operations of those departments. So in terms of a change for a council member versus a commission member, day-to-day, there probably wouldn't be they wouldn't be any more or less involved with those departments because right now they're operating as a commissioner as opposed to a department director. And that was one of the things that was touched on here that probably needs more explanation. When this form of government was created and was adopted by a lot of folks, when we did it, the commissioners actually ran the department. So the finance director, the finance commissioner actually ran the finance department, and the public works commissioner ran the public works department. We've gone away from that.
I have one little question.
Sure.
So if, apparently in some cases, cities could have 7 at-large, meaning they're not affiliated with a geographic district, but how many of the cities, what is it, 52 or 32 or something, how many of them have that? And the others that don't have it, what are the districts based on? Are they based on, some kind of census data or what?
I don't know, and I don't know what the commission would choose to do here. I think that it's likely that they would look at the city and realize that you probably can't break the city up into 7 districts very well. And so right now they serve at large. They're 3 elected from anywhere in the city limits, so it could be that they just continue along those lines.
2 things. As far as at large, it's very common for 7-member councils to have 3 at large and 4 from districts. And I spoke with the elections office and was told those would be determined by whoever sets up the voting districts, the districts.
I'm staring
I
at the
think,
site.
yeah, I mean,
I'm not that far.
this is just what I found out in looking at large members, that traditionally or commonly it's 3 and 4 representative, and that the voting districts would be set by the people who do all the voting districts. In terms of when the city came to a manager, I found a 1987 article explaining that the city of Shelton had decided it was not possible for a 3-person commission to run the city. In the first place, that meant the executive function and the legislative functions were combined in the same body, so that the commission made the laws and executed them, and that given, and I don't know the timing of the Open Meetings Act, so I'm not sure why this was in the article, but given the fact they couldn't talk to one another, it was impossible to run the city. And that's when the city of Shelton, and it specified Shelton, hired a city manager.
Any other questions about between now and election day that I can answer?
You know, this may not be true, but sometimes it's
Did
very.
you see it on Facebook?
No, this is just my experience of living here for 40 years. That sometimes it's really hard to get people involved in, you know.
Not for
county-
you ladies, look at this room.
Well, yeah, but, and so what if you don't get enough people that want to be on, want to be a commission member?
You know, you've got Raymond, places like Aberdeen, Centralia. I hate to say that if they can do it, we can certainly do as well as them. But I think that there is a little bit of that in what we were told to put this on the ballot by the citizens. And I don't have any concern that you can find 7 people or 20 people if you get them to. Everybody else in the state can do it. I'm sure that we can
And there
do
is
that.
the carrot, the staff will pay. You know, most people work voluntarily.
We have the school board that
Yeah.
works for nothing.
But that's the county. I mean, this is just.
We got a
little
couple
shop.
in the city that are, they got a big group in the city.
Well, I guess when I got this in the mail, I thought, oh, this is so nice and clear, and I love working in the format and explain everything. But the big question, and I think Linda already has sort of addressed this, that there wasn't anything about the money.
Yeah.
And that's become this big issue now, and now I think people are assuming this is gonna cost the city a lot more. And how do you dispel maybe
Well,
that?
we actually had that conversation, and we had a section in there about the pay, but the fact is, it's not as clear cut as the information here.
Right.
That's something that will be decided by the commission should this pass. And again, not here talking about positive or negative, but should it pass, that decision is made by the commission, and it was difficult for
That
us
was a little
to
iffy, I know, but
to explain that situation. But when we go to these events and people ask us these questions, we're happy to explain it.
so have you been going to a lot of events and explaining?
We did hear how late for a meeting downtown. So yes, I've got one today. We were asked to talk to the Kiwanis, and when we're asked to explain this stuff, we're happy to do that. And then there have been a couple people who have called the office to ask. We had somebody actually walk in that was new to town and wanted to know how commission form of government worked. So we did a quick civic lesson at the front counter.
Are there any more questions for Mr. Wheaton?
Yeah, so I have lived here 40 years as well, and so when Mason, and I have also lived in Grace Harbor, so I know Aberdeen. When people hear it's going to cost a lot more money, then they vote. That you're not concerned about that, but the
That's not
fact, I know, but nobody wants to spend money. So how, I'm not quite clear about this question. We have a budget.
That's 75,000, 76,000.
So if this costs a lot of money, somebody outside of this would
It doesn't have to cost more money. You have 7 people theoretically that could be
Okay,
on.
so that's how you're explaining it.
It's difficult because we don't know what the commission would want to do.
No, but right now it will not cost more money because we don't know.
It doesn't have to. So
Right.
if we were at the average of the people, even if we took the next highest salary for cities of our size, it's about $10,000, and 10 times 7 would be 70,000. We would still be
Under our
lower.
current budget.
Okay, so that's, I'm clarity on this. Then I think that,
Okay, one more comment from Mary Lynn then.
In a sense, the salary depends on the commission or being responsible. Because yes, they could continue $25,000 apiece and full benefits. But if they are responsible to the people of Shelton, the salaries would be much lower. And I'm hoping we get information about other benefits, about other cities.
That last comment was Maryland's, not mine.
I know, that was what
I'm making sure.
I don't put words in your mouth.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll ask, and I left some cards back here. You're welcome to give me a call or stop by the Civic Center if you have any more questions. I apologize for running out.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
And I am available to answer some more questions, and I have some of the answers to some of the things that,
How much do the commissioners make now? Is my question.
Ryan just gave the number. It's a maximum of about 25,000 a year.
Now.
Yes.
And could you explain the benefits?
We do have health care that is provided, and the city provides phones, which is for work only, computers that is for work only, but as part of our legal system with the Information Acts, then that makes sense and reduces liability for the city if everything we have is available to turn over for a public records request.
Really quick, sorry Tracy, this is Tracy Moore, she's
Oh,
the
I'm
city
sorry.
commissioner, for those of you who do not, I think you all know her, but just in case.
Yeah, I am a city commissioner, and I initiated this process, and so I can answer some of the questions that Ryan couldn't really answer because he wasn't involved in the process of beginning this, so I,
You want to
yes.
give us a little history on that? Because the commissioners were asked to do it, am I correct?
I can give you a little bit more history. As somebody had asked why we're just now doing this. And I will say that was a question that I had for probably about 15 years when I became aware of the different forms of government. And the answer that I was given at that time as I talked to various commissioners and mayors over the years is that they felt that it was working really well the way it was, that Shelton functioned really well with the three commissioners and the manager. And having been in office for 4 years, I can tell you it doesn't work, and it is time for us to move forward. And I was hearing that from more and more people, and so I brought it forward at a commission meeting. I made the motion that we put it on the ballot, and the other two commissioners were not in favor of it. And so the next step was to gather signatures to put it on the ballot, a citizens initiative. And in 3 days, we got more than enough signatures to put it on the ballot. And at that point, the commission had no choice but to put it on the ballot because of the citizen initiative. So I think I missed what the question was.
That was it.
Okay.
My question was like that. You had this petition and therefore you were out in the public. What kind of response did you get? Did you get any, you know?
I only had, I only know of 2 people who didn't sign the petition, who were asked if they would be interested. And as I've been out talking to people in the public a lot this season, I haven't had anyone tell me they were not in favor of it. And the general consensus of everyone that I talk to is they're thrilled and they think it's way past time. So the reasons that people want this is that they feel like they're not being heard with our current commission, that there are 3 of us and we all have similar demographics, you know. We're all 60s, I'm the youngest. And we all live downtown, we all live in historic homes. And so we feel, those of us that are in favor of this feel that we don't and we're not able to adequately represent the citizens at this point. And so given more opportunities for people to have meaningful input, that seems to be what people are wanting now. And someone had asked about, would we be able to find 7 people that are interested? And I will echo what Ryan said. I mean, cities like Morton, you know, cities, little tiny cities, are able to find 7 people that are interested in running and want to have input into their city. So I'm really interested in people coming forward. I've talked to a lot of younger people, people from different backgrounds who are interested in running. They feel that if with a 7-member commission, there would not be so much responsibility and so much turmoil that people would be able to work together. And that is one of the things that is a real challenge for a 3-member commission, is legally 2 people can't get together outside of an open public meeting. And so it makes it difficult to work on committees, to work for similar issues. It makes it hard to get ideas through. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So it's time to do this, I believe.
I got here late, so I'm wondering, did anyone talk about, are we the only city who still does this in the state?
We are.
We're 281 cities, we're the only one.
We-
And 20 years
we are.
ago was the last time someone changed.
Yeah. So, and I think it's telling too, for people who may have some trepidation about, oh, but it's working fine the way it is. I think it's interesting that not one of the other cities that have changed over has changed back to a commission. So I have to think that that is very telling in a way.
I have a question. Perhaps I misunderstood or I didn't hear this correctly, but I thought he said that the current commissioners would not change their salaries for 2 years?
The 2 commissioners, my position is up for re-election now. And so my understanding is that I would come in under the new salaries. And so there will be a lot of work to do initially to get that figured out in between the election and when the new commissioners take office. But the other 2, the mayor and the commissioner of finance, are grandfathered in at this point for 2 years until their term is up.
Okay, so you would have to have additional salary to cover 7 people if this was
If
passed.
we don't,
It wouldn't be
unless
7,
we
it'd
change
be
it.
5,
Yeah.
first of all.
But to cover total 7,
Yeah.
2 that are grandfathered in, that takes up about 50,000 right there.
Well, and that's true, but if the other commissioners or the other councilors are being paid $400 a month, it doesn't take much to make up, I mean, you know, that
Well,
25,000 would cover
certainly.
that.
But it doesn't seem like it would be a real amicable group for 2 years anyway.
Well, you know, that's
It's not an
the way it
apple,
is.
it's always
It's not
It's always
an, this is definitely not a proposition that it is in favor of our whole commission. Our whole commission is not in favor of this. And I think it's, you know, there are some reasons that have been given. Yes.
So you said the budget, he said the budget's gonna be 76,000 and they're gonna tell people, they're not gonna change the budget. But already it's added up to 120,000 if you got the 2 commissioners that are being paid at 25 apiece, 50 plus the 5 more, the 50,000 is gonna add up to above the budget, so.
First of all, that 50,000 isn't set, no number is set. The commission chooses the number, the average is 6,000. But he was saying sort of the high end.
Yeah.
So the number isn't set and won't be set until there is a new commission. And we can put pressure on people to be reasonable. We can put pressure on the sitting commissioners to do what's right and accept the salary of the new people coming in.
So if you
And I
have,
think they're really being petty if they don't. That means they're doing what they're doing for money and nothing else.
yeah, but if you have the 50, and then you have this budget of 76, you don't have a lot to give to the 5 new ones. And the public is gonna wanna know, that's what they're gonna worry about.
That's a short-term thing, 2 years.
Yeah, it will. I don't anticipate that the savings will be relevant from the very beginning, because there will be some shaking out of things to do. There will also ultimately be 7 people that need to attend trainings, that need to, there will be some costs involved in that, but ultimately, I believe it will be either a wash or it will be a savings to the city. And actually, if this change goes through, the long-term benefits are going to be amazing, I
Oh,
believe.
yeah.
So if people are concerned about the potential for additional costs as it starts going, I would just encourage people to look at our budget and look at the things that we are spending our general fund on now that are not a benefit to the city.
I think it's important to say that yes, there is the potential for 2 years, that it will require more in salary budget. The RCW does not allow commissioners to either, or council people, to either raise or lower their salaries while they're in office. Now, that doesn't mean they couldn't donate it to the city, likely they would not. And so there's a potential for a bump for 2 years.
Yes.
The other important issue, and I hope Ryan comes through with the information, is benefits.
Yes.
Because right now, commissioners are allowed up to $1,425 a month for health insurance, not only for them, but for families if they choose. They're, in addition, given dental. And my understanding was that if you don't want a cell phone from the city, they give you a $40 a month cell phone.
If you apply for that.
Yeah.
If you ask for that.
And, yeah, and I'm talking about the maximum that a person can
Yeah.
get. And so part of the question is, how will benefits be handled? And I won't even say some of us, but I will say I have been pressuring the commission, and poor Tracy knows this, that even if we don't shift to council, it is irresponsible of them not to lower salaries and benefits. Given the population they represent, 30% of Shelton's population are at or below the poverty level. I don't know how many in Shelton are on affordable care, Apple Care, because they cannot afford health
30%.
insurance.
It's 30%.
And it seems not right to me that the city should be paying electeds not only a salary, but health insurance. And so I have been arguing this at the commission meetings.
Okay, one more question, comment from Norma, and then we'll have to move on. So Norma.
Well, it's pretty minor actually, so I was going to ask about deferring salaries, why they couldn't offer to do that, but Marilyn answered that, and I guess I just wanted to know if, I haven't looked at the MRSC page yet, website yet, but is there some kind of discussion of the pros and cons of the second council? Whatever, it's not perfect, it's not heaven, so there's got to be some downsides.
Quite honestly, there was a plan amongst the proponents to put out a pros and cons, and we couldn't find any cons.
Okay.
So,
That's really
So how is the timing go on this? I mean, obviously, you have to have a special election, and the city makes their own decide to do a special election. It still has to go through the assessor of the county, right?
oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Auditor.
And the city budgets enough money each year for a special election for things that should come up you know, and unbeknownst to us or unpredictable. And so that money for the special election is already covered in the budget. It's something that we're just always prepared for.
So that would happen right after, if this passes.
Probably February. Yeah, we're hoping February. And by the time that happens, assuming that the council passes, by that time, we will have the finance committee that will give recommendations and help us wade through the adjustment to commission salaries or council salaries. There has been some discussion at the commission meetings regarding the potential for lowering salaries or whatever. I actually asked for the study for the different cities so that we could determine what is more in line with other council cities. And so there's been some work done to that, but there'll be a lot more. And as far as, let me just really quickly answer the question that somebody asked about districts or at-large positions. And I think, since I'm the one that brought this forward, I feel like I'm allowed to have an opinion on it. And I do believe that our precincts could be the way that we choose the district representatives. And then also I am in favor of having some at-large positions, so.
All right. Thank you very much, Tracy. We'll move on to the next portion. I guess Michelle, you're in the tape.
I think so.
Thanks, Tracy.
Because